record. I'm going to record. Perfect. And then now, how do I screen share? Selecting here, FaceTime, choose file. Oh, here, share screen, obviously. It's the big button in the middle. Just this, share. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. And does everyone have a drink? I did include that in the email. I have wine and coffee because it's Friday and you have to do both. Alrighty, present. Okay, you guys can all see this, correct? I'm just gonna minimize this. Yeah, I'm just gonna minimize this. Okay. All right, well, hello and welcome to my Selling on Stories workshop. Thank you guys all for being here and for everyone who signed up, for everyone who's gonna be listening to this on a recording. I'm gonna try to make this really quick. I know it's Friday night, so I'm gonna try to kind of breeze through this and leave a little bit more extra time for questions at the end. But we're going to be talking about how to build relationships with your audience and sell on Instagram stories. Okay. Okay, hi, I'm Emma. Most of you already know me, but for those of you maybe watching the recording that don't know me, I'm just going to give a little bit of a background. I started working in social media. What year was it? Well, I've been working in social media since after I graduated college in 2015, and I was the director of social media at this digital marketing agency down in the Florida Keys. It was a 9-to-5. It was a great job in terms of jobs, but I hated it because still it was a job and I had to be in the office from 9 to 5. Really didn't like that lifestyle. So that's when I quit my job after about a year and went to Bali, got my yoga certification, met Natalie. I think all of you know Natalie. All of you guys that are on the live right now know Natalie. So that's where I met Natalie and came back to Miami after about a year of traveling and ended up just getting another job because I was scared about starting my own business, about doing my own thing. So I ended up just getting another 9-to-5, which was a big mistake that I learned in about 4 months. I quit my 9-to-5 again, and then finally decided to take the leap of faith and start my own business, start my own brand, and take on social media management full time. So I did that and it was great. The first month, I made more money than I did at my 9-to-5, but then COVID hit and obviously everything changed. It was a big adjustment and the business didn't, I guess, grow as quickly as I was hoping for it to because of COVID. But then when things, I would say a year, just over a year after I officially went full-time in my business, I bought and converted the van with my husband. If you don't know, I did van life last year for 6 months. And when we hit the road in the van, I just really wanted to grow my business. It was doing well enough that I didn't, I could maintain myself and I didn't need to get another job, but I wanted to just grow and scale and be able to support all of the traveling that we had planned to do. So that's the first time I invested in a coach and it paid off immediately. So within the first, and I was really scared to do it. I didn't have enough money in my checking account at that point to pay for it. I had to dip into my savings, which was really scary. I'd never done that before. I was always told not to do that, but I did it and it paid off immediately. Within the first month, I got an amazing client that paid for the coaching and it just grew and grew and grew from there. And then I went into coaching because I realized that I don't like monthly management as much as I like to work with somebody on a one-on-one basis. And I just think I can help more people that way. And I feel like I'm helping more people that way rather than just managing a business's profile every month. So I started coaching and it's been amazing. I absolutely love it. And I'm definitely focusing on the coaching, the one-on-one coaching this year, and maybe even expanding into other areas later this year. I made a really big investment recently that I'm excited about for this course. So I might launch some fun and exciting things later this year. But that's a little bit of my background. That's why I'm here today talking about social media. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys a couple quick facts about Instagram stories. Why Instagram stories? Why did I choose to make host a whole workshop only about stories? So a couple quick facts, just for those of you who don't know, from a recent study, 500 million accounts use Instagram stories daily, which is pretty wild if you think about it. But also think about how often you watch stories. I watch stories at least once a day, definitely more than once a day, but at least every single time I go onto Instagram, I'm watching stories. So a lot of people use and watch stories. 58% of users are more interested in a brand after seeing it on stories. And on top of that, 50% of users said that they've actually went ahead and clicked a website link to make a purchase from a story. So that's a lot of eyes if you think about it. 50% of people that are watching your stories. I mean, if that's 500 people, 50% of people will actually click on the link. That's 250 people. That's a lot of people that are, inching towards buying your services. And the last point is just that it's more personal and an informal way of communicating with your audience. So I personally love Instagram stories. I would easily say that it's my favorite feature of Instagram right now. I know Reels are the big new thing and they're very important, but I just love stories because I feel like I can easily at any time pick up my phone and quickly flip the camera and just record myself talking about something, and I can share information quickly, and it takes the pressure off of creating, I think. So because it's very informal, when you post, my in-feed posts and even my reels, there's a lot of effort and energy that goes into that. I'm constantly, editing, and I'm thinking about the caption. I'm writing these really long, meaningful captions, and I'm, editing the photos or editing the videos. Editing reels is like a whole thing, editing to the music and trying to find trending audio and all of those hoops you have to jump through. So that's why I like stories personally, is because I think it takes kind of that pressure off. I can just be myself and I can record a story at any time, or I can lay in bed and post, some videos or some photos that I've taken throughout my day, or if I see something, I can quickly share it to my story without having to think about the grid, without having to think about what time of day it is. There's like all these other factors that go into having an in-feed post that I think is just alleviated by doing stories. So that's kind of why I wanted, and I've personally, so another thing I wanted to mention, I was going to share some of my insights from stories today, but I made a mistake and I really regret it. But what I did was I lost, for some reason, I don't know if it was probably from all the traveling that I've done from all the different countries, but I lost the music feature on my stories. And I was trying to get it back. And someone told me that if I switch account types, I could get the music feature back. So I switched out of like a business account to, I think, a creator or like a personal, I don't know what. And then I switched back, but that switch basically got rid of all of my insights. So, and this only happened like 3 weeks ago when I was in Mexico. So basically all of my insights, from 2 years back have been erased and I can't find them. So I wanted to show you guys, big mistake.
Do you mean archived stories, or what do you mean with that?
The archived stories are still there, but like Instagram will actually show you insights on stories. So they'll show you the amount of views you get on your stories, and they'll show you the amount of link clicks or the amount of shares, and it'll actually save that information for like 2 years, but now it's only showing me that information for the last like 2 or 3 weeks since
Okay.
since I switched my account type. So that was my bad. We're not going to be going over those, but I did want to share that with you guys, because I was planning to share that with you guys because I've seen really great results from stories, and I have often got a lot of engagement on my stories, a lot more engagement than even on my in-feed posts. And I think that's because, like we said, it's very informal. So I think it feels more comfortable for a lot of people to engage with you through stories, whether it's to vote in your poll or answer a question on your quiz, or even just respond or share your story, versus to actually go ahead and comment on an in-feed post. Okay. So next, we're gonna dive right in. So we're gonna talk about using stories to talk to your audience and build relationships. As you can see, the first thing that I put there is show your face. And that is the #1 advice that I give all of my clients. And that is the #1 pushback that I would say I get from all of my clients. Photos are good, but talking directly to the camera is better. It's more direct and personal, and people want to see the face behind a brand. They want to see you. And seeing you builds trust and invites engagement, which increases your views and so on. So I used to do this all the time. And to be honest with you, I took a like 2-month vacation, probably more if I'm being honest, like a 3-month vacation. And I wasn't showing up on stories as often as I usually do, like actually my face and actually showing up, talking to my audience directly. And I could see that the engagement dropped, and all of my clients give me the same pushback, that they're nervous to talk on their stories, that they feel awkward. And it's 100% true. I was also very nervous my first time. I felt very awkward. My husband made fun of me. So I get where you're coming from, but it's literally just practice. And Haley, who's on the live right now, is amazing at doing this. So every time I'm on her stories, it's most of the time it's Haley talking. And I just love that. I will turn the volume up and I will sit there and listen to what she has to say, because I feel like she's talking directly to me. I feel like it's almost like we're on a one-on-one, and that she's like sharing, little snippets of her life and giving me updates and telling me what's going on. And I'm sitting there listening like, oh yeah, okay, like that's interesting. So I think she's really good at that, but I've gotten so many other clients that just get anxious. And I know where you're coming from. After a while of me not showing up on stories as often, I've gotten kind of used to it. And I've gone kind of like, well, do I really need to like pick up my phone and do this right now? And my advice is yes, 100%, you absolutely do. This is the #1 advice that I give all of my clients. And I promise you, mark my words, I promise you that it makes the biggest difference out of everything that we talk about today. Just showing your face on there and actually picking up your phone and talking directly to your audience will make the biggest difference out of everything we talk about today. Because it builds trust. People want to know who is behind the post. They want to know who is behind the brand, and people buy from people that they know and trust. So when you offer them that kind of one-on-one connection, almost, it builds that trust, which then lends into them engaging with your content more often. It makes them feel more comfortable, makes them feel like they know you more. They'll engage with your content more often. And when they engage with your content more often, it's more likely that they'll actually buy from you. So this is point #1. I can't stress this enough. That is the #1 advice I give all of my clients. Oh, and hold up, before we go there, pro tip. I'm gonna give a couple of these pro tips. I have them written down. I didn't write them on the slide, so you might wanna write a little note of these. So this pro tip is to always use, whenever you are showing your face on stories, whenever you're talking to the camera, you're talking directly to your audience, you should always try to use captions or at least some text overlay on your videos, because a lot of people, myself included, will watch stories with no audio. They will watch it on mute basically. And then, so if there is some kind of caption, like the now Instagram has that feature where it generates the captions to what you're saying, or at least if you write something in a text bar underneath that they can read, it invites them to engage with your story longer. It'll keep them on your story longer, and it'll invite them to engage with it longer. And it might actually provoke them to raise the volume and to listen to you, versus sometimes if you're lazy and you're just scrolling through the stories on mute, or if you're in a crowded place, for example, sometimes you're on the train, you're on public transportation, you're wherever you are in a restaurant, you're not necessarily going, not that you should be on your phone in a restaurant, I don't advocate for that, but we're all guilty of doing that. And you're scrolling through and you can't necessarily in that moment put the audio on. If there are some kind of captions, or at least like a little text box kind of giving a summary of what you're talking about, that'll reduce the amount of people that will just swipe to the next story. So that's a pro tip. Okay, next. Using the story features. So take polls, make quizzes, ask questions. The polls box, the quizzes box, and the little questions box. I love using these features because you can use them in so many different ways. So I wrote here, do market research and learn about your followers. A lot of my clients will be confused as to what kind of offering they should create. They will ask me, I'm not sure what my audience would rather learn about, or I'm not sure what my audience would rather engage with. Like, I don't know what kind of offer to create because I don't know what they want more from me. And I always tell them the same thing. I say, go ask them. Literally get onto the stories. The stories are the best way to do this, to get on your story and to just ask your followers and let them tell you what they want. So make a poll and say, would you rather learn about selling on stories or creating reels? Or would you rather, this or that? Make a quiz, see what they say. See, you can also make quizzes. It's good to see, their knowledge level on something. Maybe you think your audience is really well-versed on a certain topic and turns out they're not. And asking questions is great because it goes both ways. A lot of people they use the question box for Q&As, which are great, but you can also ask your audience for suggestions, questions, referrals, whatever the case is. So one way to use these features is to do this market research, to learn about your followers, but another way is for them to learn about you. So you can use these tools to build relationships with them because they also learn about you. So what I mean by that is you can make a quiz, and I've done this before in the past. You can make a quiz about yourself and you can say, how well do you guys know me? And ask them a couple questions, or you can do a Q&A box like I talked about earlier. You can do a Q&A box. And again, this leads back to building these relationships and getting these people to feel like they know who you are and trust you. It basically primes them to take action. So and this applies for anything. Anytime you take a poll, anytime you take a quiz, anytime someone responds to your little question box, this is priming them to take action in the future. It's psychologically proven basically that a person who, if you want to get someone to do a favor for you, you should ask them to do a smaller favor before you ask for the big favor, because it's more likely if they say yes to doing that first favor for you, it's more likely that they'll do the next favor. So this is basically that same mindset of, if these people feel comfortable enough to answer your polls, take part in your polls or answer your quizzes, they will more likely engage with your content, stories, or in feed posts later on. So you're priming them to take action in the future. What I wrote at the bottom here, that increases engagement, which increases views. This is something I'm going to talk about in just a moment. It's another little pro tip. Any questions so far? Okay. Next slide. So using stories to provide value. This is another kind of, I would say, area of confusion a lot of my clients have. They're like, what does that mean? So I wrote here that you can use your stories to educate, inspire, and entertain. I'm sure this is not the first time that you've heard this. I'm sure everyone else tells you this, but what I want to tell you today and what I work on with my clients is the actual strategy behind this. Because a lot of people will tell you, well, just educate and inspire and entertain. But what are you educating your audience on? It always comes back to providing value, providing information on your niche or in your industry. So as much as you can, and I encourage you to use stories for everything, because I post all kinds of things on my stories. I don't just talk about social media and traveling on my stories. I talk about all kinds of things, but my main two branding pillars are social media and travel. So I'm often posting, the majority of my content will be about social media or travel, and it will be, either educating, inspiring, or entertaining in those areas. So using your stories to educate your followers on your niche, on your industry, using them to inspire others. But what do you want to inspire them to do is the big question. And you want to inspire people to take action. So when you use your stories for inspiration, you always want to end it, you don't always, but you want to end it with some kind of call to action. So an example of this, I will travel. I was just traveling for almost a year. So I'll go travel and I'll take a bunch of photos and videos of my day. Then I'll post it to my stories and I'll say, look what I did today. I did this and I visited this place and I got to experience this, et cetera, et cetera. And then I can use that I'm using that simultaneously to entertain and to inspire, but then I'm ending it with a call to action. I might plug in my services at the end of that and say, I'm so fortunate that I'm living this lifestyle of traveling and working at the same time. I'd love to help you do the same. Click this link in my bio and sign up for this workshop. And you guys are all here probably because you saw it on my story, because I mainly promoted this on my story. So when you use it for inspiration, remembering to bring it back to some kind of call to action, bring it back to what you want them to do for you. And then entertain, lots of people will react to entertaining videos or photos or memes, or photos of me traveling or whatever the case is. So entertainment will promote a lot of engagement. It'll promote a lot of people to react to your stories or to message you from your story or to share your story maybe with somebody else. Then I wrote share shareables. So what I mean by this is not necessarily, this is another one of those pro tips. What I mean by this is not necessarily when you share a post onto your story, even though there's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time. Everyone does that. It's great. But think about it like this. When you're watching, or I'll speak from my personal experience and opinion, if I'm watching someone's story and they shared someone else's post and it's like an inspirational quote that I love and I want to share, I'm going to click on that actual post. It's going to take me to the original post and I'm going to share the original post. So that doesn't do much for your engagement. What I encourage my clients to do is to share as much as you can that is not like from one of those posts. Like I would say, instead of doing that, what about maybe screenshotting, the image, or if it's a quote, or if it's an article, screenshot part of that article, or screenshot the meme, or screenshot part of that image, and then post that onto your story as an actual story, because you'll get a lot more people reacting to and sharing your actual story rather than clicking away from your story to get to the original post. if that makes sense. So that's, and that's kind of what I mean by shareables, is doing a mix of both. Share the original post, but also share things that, you know, they can't click away from your story. If they want to share it, they have to share your story or send your story. And the reason I say that is because it increases engagement, which increases views. And this is another one of those big little top tips that I want to share with you. So what we do, I don't often recommend to try to beat the Instagram algorithm. I say, screw Instagram and its algorithm, you know, focus on your branding, focus on your niche, focus on having a clear, concise message to your audience. But one thing with stories that I like to tell my clients is that you can slightly hack the algorithm here. And this is how you do it. I posted on a couple of these slides: increases engagement, which increases views. When you share something on your story that increases the engagement on your story, so whether that's a quiz that people are taking part of, whether that's a Q&A that people are writing, whether it's a poll that they're taking, whether it's a shareable, like I just said, you shared something and you notice that, you know, a lot of other people shared it, or maybe a lot of people responded to it, you know, in your DMs. That will actually, the algorithm, the Instagram algorithm will see that your stories are getting more engagement than usual, and they will make your story visible to more people. So if you think about the way stories are shown on Instagram, it's those little circles at the top. And the people that regularly watch your stories, your circle will be one of the first few ones that pop up. Someone that watches your stories half of the time, you know, it'll be a little bit farther down the line. Okay, I'm running out of time. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh no, hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay, back to this. What was I saying? Right, so the people that only watch your story part of the time, your little story circle will be much farther down the line. Why can't I get this to work? Oh my God. Sorry. I didn't think to upgrade my thing. I've totally forgot that there was a time limit. And now I'm not gonna do it now. Okay, well, if this doesn't work, it's fine. I'm just gonna keep talking. So the people, and then the people that don't see your stories like ever will, your little story circle will be all the way towards the end of the screen. You know what I'm saying? So when Instagram, when the algorithm picks up that your story is getting more engagement, it's getting seen, you know, it'll actually show it to more people. Okay, but I actually do have to show you guys the next slide. Damn it. Hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna try to share again. Give me 1 second. Technology. Any questions so far while we take this little break?
No questions, but I'm already super inspired. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh man, the last slide was so good. It's not working. The last slide was about selling, and the sweet spot that I mentioned now comes into play here. So I'll just tell you guys, I don't know if this thing's gonna come back up. It's not loading, but if anything, I can record the last of it and then you guys can see it in the recording. Okay, I'm just gonna try to open this again. I guess my internet might be slow. Sorry, guys. First world problems. Okay, I got it back up. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not even going to like put it in the presentation. I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see it. Let's see. Share. Okay, can you guys see this now?
Yes.
All right, so using stories to sell. Now that you've built a relationship with your followers, you can sell. And I wrote here, sell in a sweet spot, and I'm going to explain this in a minute. So the most important thing that I would say in order to sell on stories is to build that relationship with your followers beforehand. You want to prime your followers. I see this mistake all the time. People decide that they want to offer a service or start a business, which is amazing, but then they go right into selling and promoting, and that's not the way it works. You have to prime your audience before you do that, and you have to build a relationship with them first. You have to kind of let them know, hey, this is who I am. Teach them about yourself. Like I said, use the quizzes and the polls and the Q&As to make them feel like they're learning about you. They're learning who you are. Get them to trust you, learn more about them, learn about who they are and what they want. Maybe your audience is totally not receptive to your services or what you want to offer, maybe that means you need to adjust or shift to what they might be more receptive to, or what people in general are wanting to learn and from you. So you have to build that relationship before you can then go into promoting your services, and then sell in a sweet spot. What I mean by this is what I just talked about with beating the algorithm. If you notice, if you do this intentionally, or if you just notice that a story that you've posted is getting more views than usual, let's say like the average amount of views you get on a story is between 300 to 400 people. If you're noticing your story is getting upwards of 600 views, that's basically double what you normally get. That story, and you can see through your insights on Instagram, that story is obviously gaining more traction. It's getting more engagement, and that will often roll into the next story that you post, whether it's later that day or whether it's the next day. Oftentimes when you do have a really well-performing story, the next story you post is going to also do pretty well. It's going to be seen by a lot more people because the algorithm will show it to more people because it noticed that your story did really well and people are interested in what you have to say and what you're posting. So that's what I mean when I say sell in that sweet spot. Maybe try to gauge that. Maybe, use a story to promote after you just ran a quiz that a lot of people partook in, or after you just shared one of those shareables that I mentioned, where you noticed a lot of people did share or responded to your story. Try to ride off of that wave and post a promotion right after a story like that, right after a high performing story, even if it's the next day, because the algorithm will boost that post more than your usual things that don't get as much engagement. And then use links. I don't know if you guys know, but everyone can use links now. It used to be only that like accounts that had 10,000 followers and upwards were able to post links like to websites, but now it's a feature that's available to everyone. Doesn't matter how many followers you have. So definitely use links. And the last point is promote, promote, promote. I've posted this on my Instagram a while ago. If you haven't seen it, it says that it takes your audience seeing your promotions 8 times to actually make a purchase. So along with not priming your audience enough before you promote yourself or your services, this is another mistake that I see my clients and people in general make all the time, is that they will promote themselves once, they'll post one thing and then they just stop, and that's not the way it works. You need to promote, 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 and everyone says, well, I'm worried that I'm going to be annoying and I'm worried that people aren't going to want to hear that. And I understand that. I mean, you don't only ever want to be selling, but it does take a certain amount of times for people to repeatedly see your content before they buy from you. And even think about it from someone else's perspective. Think about it from your client's perspective. Would you buy from someone that you've only ever heard talk about their services once or twice? Probably not. You would buy from someone that you know repeatedly talks about their business, that provides value in their content, that educates their audience about their niche and about their industry, that inspires them to take action, that you feel like you know and trust, because people buy from other people that they know and trust. So with that, I'm going to end with what's next, obviously, to work with me. I just want to plug this promotion that I'm offering only for the people that are in this workshop. I'm offering you guys last year's pricing on my private one-on-one coaching. I've extended it to 8 weeks, and I'm only going to charge you guys $1,500 for the 8 weeks, even though my 2022 pricing is $2,000, and that offer is only going to be available until Monday, March 14th. So after Monday, it's going to go up to my regular pricing, but for now, I'm offering it to everyone who signed up for this workshop at last year's pricing. And I did extend my program from 6 weeks to 8 weeks, so you get an additional 2 weeks, which I've noticed a lot of my clients need and like for extra accountability. And now I want to open it up to questions, but I don't know if Zoom is going to stop my meeting.